Welcome to Unhinged and Bumbled Up, where you can
join serial dater Phil,
that's me, and dating detoxer Liz,
that's me. Welcome to the world of online dating.
What can you expect in the Unhinged and Bumbled Up podcast?
Dating do's, don'ts and disasters.
What we and our guests would gladly chuck in the 2020 dating bin to be gone forever.
What real people really think about those tricky dating dilemmas.
Or some dating trivia. You'll never know when it'll come in handy for that pub quiz.
Top tips and tricks from our awesome guest experts who luckily know a little more about dating than we do.
So if you've ever had a dating disaster,
ignored the red flags,
if your dating life is less successful than Trump's tanning game,
then you're in the right place. Do we know what we're talking about? No! Our dating lives are both utter shite. So join us as we talk all things dating. The good, the bad, and the sorry, there's just no spark.
Hello and welcome to the Unhinged and Bumbled Up podcast. I'm Phil, she's Liz, and this week we will be talking all things TV, dating reality, and everything in between. So, where are we going to start? I feel that we should probably start with the most successful. What do you think?
Do it. Let's start with number one. But I need you to tell me what it is. I was thinking about this earlier. I cannot figure out, like, of all the dating programs, which is the one that actually creates actual matches, but also people who stay together, not just people who leave the show together, right?
Yeah. This is successful as of this month. I think they've gone back through all the statistics, seen who's together and everything like that. But number one, I don't really feel that we can count it, and I'm going to tell you because I never heard of this show until today. It's called 90 Day Fiancé. Have you ever heard of it?
What the hell is that? It sounds amazing.
So I didn't know about it, and I was like, that success rate of 75% is amazing. Like
75%?
They've had 37 couples on and 28 are still together, and I was like, wow, that show is awesome, until I found out what it is because somebody told me. So here's the little synopsis from IMDb. Dating across the borders becomes possible for 4 non-American women to get a K-1 visa for 90 days purely to meet and marry their fiancé or return straight home.
So basically, these are all green card marriages. So no wonder they are still together because they have to be in the country.
So that is getting scrapped at number one.
Okay, that might be skewing the results a bit, I feel.
So have you seen the series called Love is Blind?
It rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you what it was about.
So it was about 6. There was a number.
Oh my god, yeah. I have. Okay. Yeah, it's all coming back to me. It not necessarily in a good way. Is it the one where they've got a group of girls who live in a kind of like a house, and a group of guys who live almost like in their house next door?
It's the
and
same
they have
house.
These like meeting pods that have a screen in between them, so they sit and chat to each other, but they can't see each other. That one.
Yes, and they have to do it all by obviously talking to each other. Mm-hmm. They don't know what people look like or anything like that, and then they pick who they got on the best with.
Yes, and then they see them. Yeah.
And then they go live together, do all of that together, and that success rate is 50%. 6 of those couples that went are still together for this day.
That's amazing because there were some very odd and potentially dysfunctional couples on that show.
Yeah, apparently 3 of them are still together.
Wow.
Now, we will go for number 3 and then we'll go to the bottom of the list. So number 3 is Married at First Sight. So this is the American version.
Yep.
It's not the UK version. The UK and Australian version are further down. But
bit dodge. Okay.
They've had 39 couples and 12 of them are still together.
Okay,
so
not bad.
It's decent. Saying science works in some ways, and that's a 30% success rate on that one.
It's pretty reasonable.
So where do you think First Dates UK's come on this list? Because we had Ricky on last week.
Okay, I would say quite low, but maybe I'm going to say not as low as something like Love Island. Which, by the way, is probably my favourite show ever. Total guilty pleasure. I love it.
You would be incorrect. First Dates is at number 10. First Dates UK. So its success rate from the 720 contestants that it has is 10. 10 people. So it's 1.3%. Yeah.
No, wait. So if it's 720 people, is that like 360 couples?
No.
So that's 720 couples.
Couples, 10 are still together. But I bet a lot of those made lasting friendships rather than relationships.
And that's fair, actually. You know, how do you define success? Because do you define success as I'm in a marriage with somebody I don't like so I can have a visa? Or do you define success as I had a great experience and I learned something about myself?
And I found a great friend for life. Exactly.
Yeah. But actually, that's probably an interesting point of how you view success in dating in general, not just for TV shows, right? Like, if you apply the criteria of did I meet the one, my dating success rate is 0. If I apply the criteria of did I have a nice time and or learn something, I've got a pretty high success rate. Did I eat a whole wheel of cheese? Also, I had a date once where the poor guy. We arranged to meet in a bar, and we met, and we were meeting at like, I don't know, 7. And I remember getting there and sitting down with him, and saying, "Oh, like, are we gonna eat?" So like, it was like a bar that served like, you know, bar foody kind of stuff. So I'm all for the snacks, as we know. So I was like, "Oh, are we gonna eat?" And he was like, "Oh no, I had dinner before I came." And I'm a late eater, so I thought it was very odd that he'd had dinner before he'd come. But anyway, I was like, "Oh, I mean, I'm quite peckish. Do you mind if I get some food?" And I proceeded to eat an entire baked camembert single-handedly in front of the man who was not eating. He literally watched me eat an entire baked camembert. It was brilliant.
Awkward.
It was very awkward. The camembert was delicious. I really like cheese. And for some reason, he texted me after the date and wanted to see me again and take me out to this really nice restaurant. I was like, mate, what?
It must have been your cheese eating skills. That must have been it.
Must have been the way that I dripped melted cheese all over my front. Like, what?
Right. So the bottom 3. So at number 11, what do you think is 0.1% less than First Dates UK? Think all dating or reality where people meet and they come together.
Okay, I feel like that's a cryptic clue. All dating, all reality. Big Brother? Does it have to be a specific dating show? I need to know the rules of this quiz.
Yeah. So specific dating show. This one shows people a bit more than they want to see.
Oh, Naked Attraction.
Yeah, Naked Attraction. They've had 80 couples and 1 is successful. But in the percentage success rate of that's 0.1% less than First Dates UK.
Wow.
Coming in at 12, Love Island USA, which has 10 couples, 0, and Too Hot to Handle, which I don't think... I might have watched that. 4 couples, 0 success rates. So that is...
Where is Love Island UK? How many couples have they had and how many success
Love
rates?
Island UK is in 5th place at 23% success rate with 43 couples and 10 still together. One being my favourite couple of all time, which is Camilla and Jamie.
Oh, aren't they adorable?
Yes.
They've got a baby. And who else is still together? Olivia and Alex, who have some adorable Frenchies. I can't think who the others are who are still together.
I'm not sure on that one. I know from Are You the One? I don't know whether you've ever seen Are You One?
Never seen it.
So basically, they do that matching of the perfect match, and you get 10. There's 10 guys, 10 girls. They go into this house and they've got to work out who their perfect match is, and then they get a split between $1 million between them. But the only way to do it and get guaranteed is going to this place called, I think, this room anyway. And they've got to pick a couple to go into this room to see if they're the perfect match. And one of the couples on there actually got married. They've had kids and everything.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite a good series.
Yeah.
So, I think that's that. I mean, so Love Island's your favourite?
Yeah, I love it. Also, I just recently, I know that it's trash. I know that it sends terrible messages about society. It makes people really body conscious, blah, blah, blah. I know all these things. I just still love it. Recently, during lockdown, I binge watched all of the recent Love Island Australia. There's another Love Island Australia that just came out, and watched it in about 4 days straight. But I also have a thing, like, when it finishes, actually, to be fair, I always enjoy the first 2/3 of the series more than I enjoy the last third. Like, when they all get all like mushy and smushy and start like doing all these declarations of adoration towards each other, which feel a bit like they're trying to replicate a marriage ceremony, and all makes me a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That, for me, I'm a bit like, yeah, I'm over this. But I watched the entire series. So how many episodes is it? Like 40 episodes in a series. They're an hour, so that's 40 hours of your life, which I'm now horrified by. And then I saw a friend at the weekend, and she was like, she'd also watched it. We had been voice noting about it throughout. Like, who do you like? Oh, I'm really mad at that person, like, because you're so invested. And afterwards, she was like, oh, what did you think of who won? And she said, oh, have you looked up where they are now? And I was like, no. And I won't spoil it for anyone, but it's not great. It's not looking great for the contestants of Love Island Australia. And having invested 40 hours of your life into watching these relationships develop, you're a bit like, oh. So I tend to not look up whether they're still together, because I kind of feels like a waste.
I'm always like that. I always watch a show, and like, some of them have shown in America years ago, so they're only just coming over here, and I'm like, do I look? I want to see what's happened. And then I looked once and was like, oh, they're not together still. And I'm like, that's a shame. Why did I spoil it?
What's the reason? This segment is called What is the Reason? And in this episode, we look at the reason why we are obsessed with reality dating TV shows.
I had a look at this little article where the experts explain why we love reality dating shows, even though we know they're fake.
Is it because we're sickos who enjoy just watching the horrors of human experience and all human awkwardness displayed on the television?
Well, apparently we're fascinated by love. That's one thing. We find the topic of love endlessly fascinating, and always have. That's why we've got a dating podcast.
And that's why you, dear listeners, are listening to a dating podcast.
Because you're fascinated about love. Even though we don't really talk about love, we talk about other stuff. We learn how to behave from reality dating shows. According to a cognitive theory by a doctor, we mimic the behaviors that result in successful outcomes.
Okay, so you're kind of looking at like what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah. That's
interesting, actually, because when I was watching the Love Island Australia, I was really interested in a particular couple. And it was really interesting because spoiler alert, by the way, sorry if I ruin this for anyone, but there are a pair of twins in the series. Beautiful twins, who both obviously start speaking to and dating two different girls, and the twins are reasonably similar in personality. They're not identical in personality, obviously, but it's really interesting to watch those two relationships play out simultaneously, because you can see that one of the twins is with somebody who seems to bring out the best in him. Like, she's very lighthearted, she's very easygoing, and she seems to really bring out the best characteristics that he has, and it really works. The other relationship which you're watching simultaneously, oh my god, like, they should not know. Something about the dynamic of their personalities seems to bring out the absolute worst in both of them. And you're watching it unfold, and you're like, dear God, that this is like toxic. But you can't put your finger on what is toxic about it, other than they just bring out the worst in each other, and everything about the dynamic is just showing each of them in the worst possible light. And you've kind of seen them a bit before they got together, and then you see them kind of after they've when they're not together anymore, and they're like completely different people. Because it's something about the dynamic of this coupling that just turns them both into absolute monsters. And it was so interesting for me to watch that and think, gosh, you can be who you are, and however secure you are in who you are, the dynamic of you plus another can either bring out the best in you and make you the best version of yourself, as cliche as that sounds, like living my best life, or it can bring out your like demons and really kind of pull up all that stuff that isn't so likable about you. And it was so interesting to see that like so concretely on the television.
Yeah, it's so yeah, we mimic, which is interesting.
Yeah, I will not be mimicking that particular dynamic. I'll be running from the hills if I experience anything like that. But you're right that you see like, okay, that seemed to work, that didn't work.
Well, apparently they also turn us on. So the kissing, the hugging, the sheets going up and down. Apparently that all turns us on.
I mean, lockdown's been like hard times, hasn't it, for everybody? So you've got to get your entertainment where you can, frankly.
We relish the drama as well. And I think, some people love drama, but I don't. But I do enjoy watching the shows because it's not my drama. So it's
well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? We enjoy watching other people's drama. We don't enjoy our own drama particularly when we're in it. But watching somebody else experience like the highs and lows of dating is kind of vaguely entertaining, which I guess is why people enjoy dating disasters.
Exactly. I mean, that seems to be the favourite part. They bring us closer to a community. So, like you were saying, you were texting your friend, voice noting, going, "Oh, this has happened. This has happened." It happens all over Twitter, all over Instagram, everything like that. Whenever these programs on, find the hashtag Love Island, and it just brings people together, either whether they're agreeing or disagreeing or whatever else. It's really, really interesting. Like you just think, oh, it's a show. I'm watching that, and that's how it is.
Yeah, actually a lot more than that.
Now, before we move to the next segment, have you heard about our giveaway? We are giving away a bundle worth up to the value of £300. And if you're listening and already pressed the subscribe button, you are part the way there to entering. So head over to our Instagram after the show. Now, back to the episode.
Now, what I'm going to move on to next is a show that you might not have watched. It's called Unreal.
I haven't.
No. So what this show is about, it's from 2015, and you can tell that I binge watch a lot, can't you? And basically it's a TV series, fictional, but I reckon there's a lot of truth in it, about a producer on a show called Everlasting, which I'm guessing is meant to be like The Bachelor.
Okay.
And it shows you all the drama behind it, that the producers basically manipulate the situations. Because obviously the more drama in these situations, the more they're going to get viewers watching.
Yeah, you don't want a boring TV show, right? You have to do a bit of stirring to make stuff happen.
Exactly. So it makes you think, how true is everything that's going on? And, why they're not letting people find true love? Because let's face it, these people are picked for looks, sometimes personality,
entertainment value, mostly.
Yeah, and social media following and stuff like that prior to it, because social media sells. Like we know, if people got high social media, then they go on a show, it's going to go higher, but they've already got that free promotion. So definitely check out Unreal. There's 4 seasons of it, and it's really, really good.
The people have spoken. This segment is called The People Have Spoken. It's changed slightly. We've asked people on Instagram and our followers what they would do in a certain situation. And here's the answer.
Now, this leads me on to the little survey we did on Wednesday of last week.
Okay, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a question about one of your answers.
Okay.
So
did I answer all of them? I don't.
Yes.
Can't, okay, did I? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh well, I'm alarmed now. I think I responded thinking it was anonymous, and here we are with you knowing what my answers were. Come on now.
I mean, it's never anonymous for us. We always we always know. So I'm going to ask you this question and see how you answered. But would you go on a reality dating TV show? Now, 33% said yes, 67% said no. What was your answer?
I said yes.
You said yes.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And then it got to the next question, and I was a bit
Oh God.
oh.
What was the next question?
So, do you think in reality dating TV, people find real fairy tale like love? 15% said yes, 85% said no. What was your answer to that?
I think I said no.
Okay. So, what are you going on TV for?
No, the reason I said no is because I don't believe that fairy tale like love exists.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was a quirk of the question. If you'd said, do you think that going on a dating TV show could result in love? Yes, if you meet the right person.
Okay.
But because I don't subscribe to the idea of fairy tale like love, because it's mostly completely messed up people doing some weird rescuing of basically teenage girls, I just don't really go along with it.
We are going to cover Disney on a future episode. We discussed it long ago, and it seems like loads of stories are coming up about it now, and I'm like, why didn't we do this before? but I do believe that if you met the right person, and I also believe that the people who make those shows are clever at finding you a good match. Like to go back to the episode with Ricky when he was on First Dates Hotel, like the girl that they matched him with was a great match for him. When they were introducing them, I was like, these guys are going to get on, that she's perfect for him. And now they're friends. So
now they're friends, exactly.
Yeah,
so
the friendship.
I think.
So wording of my question.
Okay, it's the wording. Yeah, no fairy tales for Liz.
That's fine. That is fine. No fairy tales for Liz. Now, when we asked the people what show they like the most, what do you think they said?
Maybe First Dates. I think First Dates would be a strong contender.
Do you know what? First Dates started off really slow with like one person liking it, and then Married at First Sight was like, growed quite high, and then First Dates just smashed it. Like literally, just smashed it.
I think it's partly Fred. Don't you just love Fred?
Oh, Fred is great.
Also, can we just talk about Merlin? Because can I make it so that every date I go on, there is like a nice supportive barman to give me a pep talk before the date starts.
Called Merlin. I mean, how amazing is Merlin?
Do you know, I know somebody who is married to a man called Merlin. That is his actual real life name. I love it. Wow. But yeah, don't you wish that you had like that pep talk barman every time you go on a date to like hype you up a bit before and like just be kind to you while you're feeling nervous
and chill you out and and talk to you and everything like that, because that's what we all need. We just need a little bit of a pep talk when we go on these dates to go, you know what, it's going to be fine.
Also, I've got a mad girl crush on Cece, the waitress. What a babe.
Cece's Cece. Yep. Yes, she is indeed, and if you're listening,
Cece, text either Phil or myself.
Drop us a DM. So then we move on to the program called The One, which is on Netflix and Prime, who has Soulmates. Now, have you watched these?
I've watched The One. I haven't watched Soulmates. Are they a similar premise?
They are. I mean, One basically was a series that followed on from each other. The episodes followed, whereas Soulmates were individual stories. So there were 6 episodes, and it was individual, and it was the same premise. It was basically like they did a test. Now, in The One, it was a DNA test, whereas Soulmates, you didn't actually see the test, but it was very clinical.
Okay, so for anyone who hasn't watched The One. The premise of The One is that basically it's kind of set like now, isn't it? It's not, like really futuristic or anything, but basically somebody's come up with a way to test your DNA and figure out who your ultimate match or your soulmate is, and they can be anywhere in the globe. So what would happen is you submit your test and your data gets inputted onto their database. If the person that is a match DNA match for you is already in the database, they tell you who that person is and they kind of match you to set you up. If that person isn't yet in the database, then your details are stored on file. And if they then get tested in the future, then it will let you know as and when they appear in the database. So there's these really interesting questions about, what if you're already in a relationship or if you're already married? Would you get the test and find out who your soulmate is? Or do you carry on in the relationship that you're currently in? And what does it mean? And your soulmate could be anywhere in the world. They could not speak English. They could be from a totally, they could be absolutely anyone on the planet.
They may not even be alive. That's the thing. It may have gone to the point where before they took the test first, and then when you took the test, they've
passed away since. It could be anything. Yeah. So that was really interesting for me. So I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe in soulmates, or do you believe in the one, not in the TV show, but in the concept of the one?
So I don't believe there's only one person for you. I believe because let's face it, there's nearly 8 billion people on this planet now. And, if there was one person for 8, out of 8 billion. So I believe there's a group of people that not the one in the way that they put it, where you could do no wrong and they would be like, oh my God, I'm going to, because literally you could murder someone and your one would be like, nope, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to make sure you're okay and everything like that. I don't believe in that. I believe you've got a high connection with a certain group of people out there, but other people have got those connections with those people as well. So what's your take on it?
I was watching the show, The One, and what was really interesting to me is if your soulmate is based on DNA, so it's a biological match, you could meet that person and be completely incompatible in terms of your values, your lifestyle, what your aspirations are, and how you want to live your life. Like, just because you're biologically matched doesn't mean anything about the compatibility of your lifestyles. It might mean that maybe there is really clever, and it might mean that you're compatible in terms of personality, but it doesn't mean that your lifestyles are at all compatible. And I think my take on it is, I definitely don't believe that there's just one person. And I don't believe, I would use the phrase in a cavalier fashion, the love of your life, but I definitely don't believe there's just one, that you get like one true love or anything like that. I think I feel similarly to you, that there is a pot of people, probably, a few percent of the population.
Hopefully the right pot.
who you would have a great connection with. And that you could have a successful relationship potentially with any number of those people, and it would depend on where you are in your life at that time and what your values and your attributes are at that point in time. And I also believe that you can be with the right person at the wrong time. And I kind of think that a lot of whether a relationship is successful is not down to whether you're a good match. It's down to the skills of the people in that relationship, their communication skills, their negotiation skills, their skills in expressing love and affection, their skills in asserting and explaining their own needs, their level of self-insight and self-awareness. All of those things, I think, are actually stronger predictors of whether you can make a relationship work than whether you're compatible or whether you have a good spark. I feel like you need the spark, but that's not what makes a relationship successful. I've had relationships with people that I've had like mad chemistry with, and it's an absolute shit show, like a fucking disaster zone, catastrophic, because we at that time didn't have the skills to figure out that relationship, or our approaches to the relationship weren't compatible. So we might have been massively compatible in terms of like physically and also in terms of personality. Like, we got on better than I've got on with anybody, but it was awful, like just sheer hell. The whole thing was awful.
So if you'd met, probably, I don't know when you guys met, but if you met further on in your life when things changed and everything like that, then it possibly could have been a different outcome.
No,
right? No,
Do you know what? The opposite. So if I met, so this is a relationship I had in I would have been maybe 23, 24. If I met him now, I would recognize the red flags the day I met him and run a fucking mile.
That's good to know. So, with that in mind, do you want to know how many of our listeners said, would you take a test if it guarantees to match you with your soulmate?
Yes, I want to know.
Do you want to take a guess? Take a guess.
I think it might be about 50-50. Roughly.
75% yes, 25% no.
Wow, that's way higher than I would have thought.
Yeah, so a lot of people are like, I want to find the soulmate.
Wow.
Which is cool. I mean, yeah. But then we went on to ask this question. Now, I didn't see your answer to this question.
Okay.
Would you still take the test if you were married with children?
I think I said no.
Okay, I can't remember. I didn't look that far. I saw your first one and I was like, oh, okay.
What did the listener say?
Listeners said 68% no, 32% yes. So
yeah, I think so. There's something for me. I don't know how to explain it. How can I put it? If you would take the test, that tells me that you feel like there could be something better, or that there's maybe something missing, which is a bit of a red flag about the relationship that you're currently in. Like, I feel like if you're super happy in the relationship that you're in, it wouldn't matter if you actually had does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm going to spoil episode 1 of Soulmates now.
Okay.
Because I feel like I have to. So basically, the first episode's about this couple. They're married, they've got kids, they've been together since high school, so about 13, 14, 15, something around there. And now they're in like their late 30s. And her brother meets the love of his life by doing the soulmate test. And it's very much that on this one, you get the draw. So if somebody's taken the test, you feel it pulling you towards them. Anyway, so carries on. She then goes to the test center. The next scene, she's in the kitchen. She calls her husband in. Her husband comes back and was like, oh, where's the kids? Oh, they're at your mum's. She sits him down and says, well, I went to the test center and I didn't take it because I realized how much I loved you. Then he turned around and says, I've taken the test and I've seen her, met her, and then pretty much the next scene is her going to pick up the kids, his new partner being there, and her being with her new partner. And there's that little look back at the end, and you're like, they've still got something, but they've got something for the other.
Yeah. Because I feel that kind of illustrates, isn't it? Like, if you were in a relationship and your partner if my partner took the test, I would be upset that they'd taken it, and that tells me something about the rationale behind taking it. But I also thought it was really interesting in the one, and I will try to limit the spoilers. In the one, there is a couple, and the woman actually gets the test done not for herself but for her partner. So she basically sort of borrows some of his DNA off a fucking hairbrush or whatever and sends it off. So she finds out who his match is and is like curious. It really reminded me, when you stalk your boyfriend's or partner's exes on Instagram, and it's like, why am I doing this? It doesn't matter what their exes are like. It doesn't matter how gorgeous or successful they are. It's got nothing to do with it. It's like the flip version of that.
Do you think that she wanted to be his soulmate, his match, and that's what it was? It was curiosity of her finding out that I want to be his soulmate. I want to be his soulmate. I want to be his match.
I don't think that she actually thought that she would come up as his. I think she was curious about what is the girl who is his ideal match like. And is she like me or is she different to me? And I think it's that kind of almost that like self-doubt thing of like, am I what they are actually looking for? And it really feels for me like when you kind of stalk your partners or your boyfriend's exes, like that, like, oh, well, they went out with this girl who was like this, so why would they be interested in me if that's
she
what
looks
their type
nothing like
is?
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now my take on this is I'm a bit on the fence. And it's a strange one because if I could take a test that guarantees my soulmate for life, and I'd be happy, they'd be happy, and I was married with children, which wasn't guaranteed for life, it's one of those questions like, do I risk this?
Yeah.
Or do I go for something that's certain?
Yeah.
You know,
but I also think that that kind of goes back to what I said earlier about the relationship skills, because even if you have a match or a soulmate, it doesn't necessarily guarantee it for life.
See, I mean, how these programs were making out, it was like match of your life, you know, is guaranteed. Whereas if it was not guaranteed, if there wasn't anything like that around it, then obviously I would be in the relationship that I'm in and be like, yep. And if I was to take the test, I was hope that they were the soulmate match, you know. But
although with the number of however many billion people on the planet, that seems unlikely that they happen to live in the same country and town as you usually.
Yeah, no, I get that. And then we asked this final question, which was quite interesting because a lot of people said they'll take the test. And I put, do you believe that science can find a better match for you than your own personal judgment? 63% said no. So a lot of people said, yes, I will take that test. It's guaranteed. Said, no, I don't believe in science over my personal judgment.
How interesting.
So I was very like, hang on, why? So I asked somebody. I asked one of my friends that answered it. And she was like, but that technology doesn't exist. And I said, but it may do in the future. So might just be bad wording from me again.
Yeah, no, I think it's more like the concept of being able to find your soulmate match seems like a good concept. But when you think through the actual logistics of it seems like it's a bit flawed.
Yeah, well, for everyone out there wondering, testing via DNA to find your match does not exist. You cannot do that, okay? Now, pheromones are a different thing. You can match by pheromones. Like, everybody's got a slightly different pheromone to somebody else and it attracts. Now, but to get hold of your pheromones, it's different kettle of fish. And I haven't researched it, so I can't be bothered to talk about it on this episode.
We will not be providing scientific advice about pheromone matching.
If you want to know about that, I'm sure there's plenty of people on Instagram that can explain it all to you. So but on that fact.
So wait, before we go any further, do you think that science could find you a better match than what you could find yourself?
Well, this is what I was going to go on to. I was going to go on to Married at First Sight. So, unfortunately, we both can't go on Marriage at First Sight because we've already been married.
Really? Is that the rules? I didn't know that. That's rude. It's like I can't get another Lysa because I bought a home when I was 20 with a guy I'm not married to anymore, so I can't have a lifetime Lysa. Cheers, guys.
Yep. So, because we're married, because we've already been tainted. I tried.
Furious.
I might have tried applying for it, just like I tried applying for first dates, but it said, have you been married before? Because you can't do this if you've been married before.
What,
because
for Married at First Sight? I'm so mad about that.
Yeah, me too. So with Married at First Sight, they've got all the experts, haven't they, that basically sit you down, chat to you, and then they pick like 3 or 4 couples, isn't it? 3 or 4 couples or something like that out of thousands of people. Now, if the science was that good, I'm sure it'd be more than 3 or 4 couples. Like you say, the science can go so far, but I reckon on those questions, on those tests, everything like that, you've got that mask on again, because I don't know whether everybody answers them truthfully. And that's when you watch the episodes. Yeah,
and it's sort of like any self-rating thing, isn't it? Is the only thing you can actually rate is your own perception of yourself.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily accurately yourself. And somebody who knows you really well might fill it out differently. And I thought that actually, I know that you applied for first dates, and I was really interested in what the application process involved. So I had a look, not because I want to go on it necessarily, but I had a look at the questions, and there was some really interesting stuff about, you know, what kind of person are you looking for and da-da. And I thought, God, like, even if you say what you're looking for, that relies on you having a good level of insight about what you're looking for. You could say you're looking for one thing, but you're actually looking for something totally different. It probably depends what day of the week you ask me on as to what I say I'm looking for. Like, Who knows?
The hosts reveal more.
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please take your seats at this time as the program will begin.
So in this segment, we thought it's about time you know that little bit more about us. So Liz and I decide to share something that you may not know already.
Now, I've been on TV twice before.
You have. Tell us more.
I've been on this program called Freeze Out that nobody else will ever remember. It was presented by Judith Chalmers' son, and it was a big, massive, like, I'm trying to think of it. Was like an air hockey table, but ice. And you had these little things that you had to answer questions, knock things off. Stayed around for one episode, one season, disappeared. Never to return again. That's how good that was. Then I was on the 100K drop, which was really cool because I got to meet Davina, who's tiny, but she swears like a trooper. Like, really? I haven't heard anyone swear as much as Davina does. Like, literally, we're chatting to around the back and yeah, normal conversation. Then something came up, and all of a sudden, F this, F that, F this, ran off.
You wouldn't expect that, would you? Because she seems quite wholesome.
She's the nicest person. She's a very, very nice person. But it's not what you think. And I think Richard was saying this last week. It's a set, you know, and it surprises me because, like, First Dates, not the hotel, but First Dates, that's going to be a set as well. And
yeah, although it is a real restaurant, you can go for dinner there, like out when they're not filming.
But I reckon they've got a studio that they actually film the scenes in.
Yeah, and they do all the interview sections, don't they? So that must be in a studio of some kind. Yeah, and he mentioned that the First Dates hotel is not really like a hotel; it's like a film.
No, because let's face it, when you walk through the First Dates restaurant doors, you haven't just come out of a cab. You've come from makeup, you've come from wardrobe, you come from hair, and they make you look freaking good to walk through that door.
I feel like I need this team before I next go on a date. To like zhuzh. Do some zhuzhing, please.
So many, you have to take so many different outfits, and they choose it and everything like that. For some reason, I took a pink shirt. Why did I take a pink shirt? I didn't look good in the pink shirt.
No,
put a bit of weight on.
Phil, did you know I've also been on the television?
Have you? What were you on?
Right, okay. When I was 18, I went to Australia for a year. Little wee nipper, Lizzie, on the other side of the world. I went to Australia for a year. And I was on a TV show called My Restaurant Rules. So
I'm going to get the copy of that. That's got to be somewhere.
Oh God, don't! Please don't. I'm so young. Basically, they set up a restaurant in each of the 5 Australian states. Is there 5? 5. I want to say 5 Australian states, and it's set up by a couple. And they basically set up a restaurant and ran it as a restaurant, and it was a fully functioning restaurant. And I was a waitress in the Brisbane restaurant. So basically, when they started hiring staff, you had to go for what was fundamentally an interview, but was basically an audition. And so to do your interview / audition, you had to like stand up in front of a panel of the people who were going to run the restaurant and a full TV crew and do your interview standing on a podium, answering all the questions, and do like a pitch for a dish that was going to be on the menu. And they televised my entire interview on Australian telly. Little 18-year-old Liz trying to upsell a beef dish by offering a bottle of wine with it or some shit.
We are going to find this. We are. I will put up mine, and we'll find Liz as well.
My mum had this on her like cable box until about 2 years ago when she got a new one and couldn't find a way to transfer. Other people have looked and nobody has ever found it. So if you can find it, the restaurant was called Restaurant Louvre, as in the museum. Yeah, it was Brisbane, and it would have been aired in, how old was I? I think I was
the season
maybe
started in 2004, so it would.
You've already looked this up. No, so it would have aired in 2005. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I've just looked it up because I was interested. I'm going to find it. Trust me, I can do things like this.
Blonde. I think I had blonde hair at the time.
You're blonde hair. Even if we can find a picture, that's fine. We'll put it up. We'll find it.
So I went traveling with my fiance at the time, who later became my husband, who later became my ex-husband, and he also interviewed and auditioned. In fact, it was his idea to interview for a place, because we were looking for jobs. We were on like a working holiday makers visa.
Yeah.
And he also interviewed and auditioned and didn't get offered the job, and it was super awkward because he then had to watch me be on the telly of the job that he wanted that I got. It was super cringe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I managed to get him a free meal, which softened the blow slightly, but not that much.
Awesome, having to watch your fiance on TV, the job that you wanted.
And we used to go to the pub with all the other staff of the restaurant on a Sunday night to watch the airing live, and then we had to like go and campaign for votes. And they flew us to Sydney to campaign for votes. Mad.
Nice.
Dating disasters.
This segment of the show is called Dating Disasters, because let's face it, we've all had them. Each week we'll be asking our guests to share their worst dating disaster, and we'll be sharing a dating disaster we've either received or one of our own.
So, we're at that point of the show where we discuss dating disasters. Now, Liz has kindly volunteered herself today because we don't have a guest, so come on, Liz.
I have volunteered myself, and I now immediately regret it, having actually properly thought through what this dating disaster involves. And I feel that there's a strong risk that all of our listeners are going to massively lose respect for me here. So I don't know why I agreed to tell the story, but okay. So picture the scene.
Now.
I was probably 25. I had just broken up with the guy that I said was a catastrophe. Like, that was a nightmare relationship from hell. So when we broke up, I was like, wee for a while. And I was, young, free and single. So let's just put aside all judgment, please, here, everybody.
People grow, people have a past, and people change. So there we go.
And I will not be shaped. So anyway, I went out for a meal with some friends. It was 2 or 3 girl mates, and we went out for a meal.
Oh my God, how dare you go out for a meal?
So we went out for a meal, just to like a generic chain Italian restaurant in the town that I lived in. And the waiter was a babe. He was gorgeous, like in a real like bad boy kind of a way, like just gorgeous, just very charismatic, and twinkled his eyes at me throughout our entire meal and kept kind of lingering slightly too long at the table. And I was like, this man is delicious. Anyway, went home, and like as we left the restaurant, the girls were like, oh my God, why didn't you leave him your number? He was totally coming on to you, blah blah blah, like I can't believe you've missed your chance, kind of a thing. And I got home to my like really depressing house share, where I shared a house with some definite drug dealers, and it was just a fucking nightmare. And a mad student. She was loopy, not in a mental health way, in like a bananas way. So I got home and I was like, why didn't I give him my number? And I thought, come on, Liz, like pull yourself together. There's like no, YOLO. So I rang the restaurant, and I think I said like something ridiculous, like that I'd left my jumper there or something stupid. Could I speak to the guy, the young guy with the tattoos that was looking after our table, to see if he can find it?
What you really wanted to say is the hot guy that I fancy the fuck out of and want to speak to. Yep.
Yeah, the guy that I salivated over for the entire time. So yeah, they put him on. I can't even remember what his name is at this point, which feels bad, but whatever. And he was like, hi, like, can I help? So he said something that you've left your jumper. And I was like, yeah, no, I haven't left my jumper. Like, you looked after our table earlier. I'm the girl with the nose ring and the dark hair. Like, I seemed like there might have been something between us. And he was like, oh yeah, for sure, I fancied you. And I was like, okay.
This sounds like a bit like deja vu of recently.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I just perpetually put myself in these really awkward situations by telling people I fancy them and then being like, all right, what and what. Anyway, he was like, okay, so do you want to meet up? Like, my shift finishes at 10 or whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, if you like. And he was like, oh well, cool, I'll be walking home with a bunch of guys that work in the restaurant, but like what kind of area do you live? And I said what area I lived, and he was like, oh, cool. Like, what road? And I told him the name of the road. If you can't tell where this is going, he lived in the house opposite me. Opposite. The house, literally opposite. Okay, so I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, I mean, I'm literally opposite. Shall I just like knock on the door and we can just have a chat? And I was like, yeah, okay. All right. So, I mean, I'll spare you the details, but I think we can all assume that
we know where that's going.
That we didn't stand on the doorstep and have a chat.
Yeah.
Anywho, so fun time was had by all. Then we kind of, I think we maybe saw each other one more time, but it wasn't going to go anywhere. Mainly my decision, I think, on that front. However, let me remind you that he lives in the house opposite. So if there's ever a way of avoiding somebody who you don't want to sleep with anymore, I would recommend them not living in the house opposite you, because then for the next year, whenever I, like, particularly when I would go on a date, he would text me in like 2 minutes after I'd left the house and be like, hey, you look nice today. Or like, hey, where are you off to? Anywhere nice? And I was like, fuck my actual life. Like, there, you know the phrase like don't shit on your own doorstep. There is never a more literal interpretation. Like, do not shit on your own literal doorstep.
He probably had the front bedroom as well, with the windows looking out, and he could.
Genuinely, he did. I was in it was a Victorian house, and I lived in what would have been the lounge, right, the front bedroom. He lived in the equivalent bedroom in the opposite house. I had to put up like window obscuring film so that he stopped looking in my fucking room. It was ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous.
That takes stalking to a whole new level.
It was mad, and there wasn't any malice in him.
No,
but I literally remember going on a date once, being picked up by somebody to go on a date, and him being like, "Hey, where are you off to? I really like that skirt on you." It was like mad, properly mad, not smart.
This lesson has taught you: if you think there's a hot Italian waiter, don't ring the restaurant.
Don't ring the restaurant. Just walk away, Liz. Just walk away and wonder what would have been. Because
he may live across the road from you.
He may live literally opposite you. And the what would have been, or what could have been, or what might have been, is definitely better than trying to avoid somebody who lives opposite you.
And getting text messages for the next year.
Yeah, cringe. Probably cringe.
So I just wanted to do a quick update, because I feel that it was so long ago that we did this. What got in the bin on episode 2? Do you want to remind everybody? Can you remember what Lou put in the bin?
Episode 1 was walking dates. Episode 2 was connecting with people on social media before you've had a date. Yeah?
Yep. So I did what I said I would do.
Did you do the mass cull?
I did the mass cull.
Hey!
A lot of people have disappeared. Some people were like, oh, I survived the cull. I was like, yeah, you did. It's fine. We chat. We're good. There was nothing ever there. It's fine. We are good. So this is going to sound really bad, isn't it? My followers kind of dropped from. Are you ready for this? I'm going to put a drum roll in this. Seriously. Okay. It dropped from, I think it was about 90 to 58. Yeah, I was brutal. Like, literally didn't even say bye to her. I was like, Bop.
But like a third of the people on Instagram were people that you dated.
On my private Instagram, yeah.
Wow.
So I know, and that's stopped now, because it got in the bin.
You're not allowed to do it anymore.
So, and do you know what? If people want to connect with me, they can just follow your
professional, your podcast account, and do it that way.
And just slide into DMs. Like, yeah. Did you see my story about someone last week when they found me on Bumble and they found the podcast? So before they swiped, I was like,
they'd already scoped out the podcast before they'd even swiped with you on Bumble. How did they find the podcast? Were you wearing your t-shirt in one of the photos or something?
I might have been wearing the logo
t-shirt. Nice plug.
I might have put down that I was a podcaster at Unhinged and Bumbled Up.
Well, rightly so. You need to find all opportunities to plug the podcast, even to unsuspecting daters.
So yeah, I haven't really been on any dating apps really. I've kind of like,
Phil, don't let the side down. Like, you are
Sorry.
responsible for all of the market research here. I cannot help but talk about that.
I know. It's just really like sometimes like the.
And eventually, I'm going to run out of dating disasters, although probably not for another year or two. But we need you to be formulating new ones to refresh.
Okay. I will go on dates, and if they're bad, then
you need to save these things up.
They'll go into dating disasters. Well, we need the listeners' help. So, listeners, help.
Help. Do you have a dating disaster that you would be willing to share with us? If you do, please send it to us on a DM. You can either write it or voice note it. We love voice notes. We don't have to play your voice note. We can say what you said. But yeah, however you want to send it in to us, if you want to drop us an email, whatever it is, if you have a dating disaster, we need to hear about it.
Yeah, because I guess give great dating disasters, but when we have to do them every week, in and out,
and you guys are just going to lose all respect. If you hear another one of my dating disasters, you're going to be like, "Who is this girl? Like, what planet is she on?"
I mean, we may do the one where I flew to America, but yeah, that's another time. Yeah. Also on next week's episode.
Oh yeah, rapid conversational change. Well
yeah. On next week's episode, everybody gets to find out why I'm banned off Tinder.
Yes, we need to find this out. This is very important.
Because I have been asked the question of like people getting really worried.
Like, how do you get banned off Tinder? Like, what do you have to do?
It's nothing to worry about. It's like it's quite funny. It's quite funny. Like, but you find out that on the next episode with Abby Does Dating. So yeah, I think that's us done, isn't it, for this episode? I hope everybody enjoyed it, and do you know what? We're loving the fact that we're at 600 streams. We're loving the fact that we're on the Apple charts.
So exciting. We're so grateful to everyone who's listened, and we're so grateful to everybody who's shared the podcast with somebody else that they think will enjoy it as well. That makes such a big difference. Is even if you just send the link to one person or two people, like that helps us so much in terms of listeners. And we really want to hear from you as well. Like, what is your favorite dating related TV show? Would you go on them? What one would you want to go on if you could go on one? Do you feel like it will help you find true love? Like, we love hearing your messages and your comments. So drop us a DM, slide into our DMs because nobody else can, and tell us all your news.
Exactly. And like Liz said it all, but do you know what? Thank you all so very much. Final thoughts.
This segment is called Final Thoughts. Basically, we take a look back at the episode and we each pick something that we'll take away from it or something that we have learned.
I'll let you go first because I might copy again, like always. But we'll see.
Well, I haven't had any time to think about it. Here's a final thought on the fly. I think the final thought for me is that you can be the right person for somebody on paper, or your DNA can be right for somebody, or a compatibility test can show that you're right for somebody, but if you each haven't done the work on yourselves and learned about yourselves and figured yourselves out, and if you haven't got to know your boundaries and your needs and what helps you to thrive and what doesn't help you to thrive, and if you don't have that level of self-awareness, you could be matched with the best person on the planet for you and it probably still won't work out. For me, all of the success of a relationship is, do these people have a really good understanding of themselves? Have they done the work on their self-esteem? And are they bringing a robust set of relationship skills to the table?
That's awesome. Do you know what my final thought of today's episode is? It's a really, really in-depth one. I'm kind of glad we didn't do the 2020 bin this week. because it means that I have got nothing that I need to do this week. Because
you don't have to cull anyone or do anything.
Don't have to call anyone. Don't have to try and cut dating apps out. Thanks, Ricky. The dating apps didn't go. So, yeah. There's a lot that I don't have to do this week. So
absolute score on skipping the 2020 bin. But we would also like to hear so we want to hear from the listeners what they think should go in the 2020 bin as well, because I reckon they've got some good ones.
Virtual speed dating, by the way. I am going to sign up.
Do it.
And
Do it.
I'm going to see how it goes. I won't be able to record it or anything like that, but I can talk about it before and after and see what happens there.
Definitely need you to go live before and after. I'm looking forward to that review.
I will go live before and after. So that should be fun. But
awesome.
Anyway, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're listening to this. And then, like I say, next episode is Abby Does Dating.
It's a great one. I really enjoyed recording this one. So yeah, definitely join us next week.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening. We love you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, as we've already said, next week's episode we are joined by Abby Does Dating. We'll be talking about her Instagram account, why she started it, the Singled In podcast, and opening lines and much, much more, including why I got banned off Tinder.
If you'd like to get in touch, then you can do, whether that's to submit a dating disaster, ask a question, or ask for some advice. We're not that good at helping, but one of our guest experts will certainly be able to. So if you'd like to get in touch, head on over to our socials.
On Facebook and Instagram, it's at Unhinged and Bumbled Up.
On Twitter, it's at BumbledUp.
Or by email, it's unhinged.and.bumbledup@gmail.com.
If you liked the episode, then please don't forget to like and share and click the follow button above.
We also now have a website, www.unhingedandbumbledup.co.uk. See you all next week.